It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
This is new video of a 12-year-old boy breaking into a Rockville car dealership. Montgomery County police sources told News 4 he's done this 5 times at various car dealerships, and in some cases, he even managed to steal cars. News 4's Amy Cho explains why police have not been able to hold him in custody, and she also has more of this exclusive video you will only see on News 4.
A 12-year-old boy breaking into a car dealership. Watch as he opens the window at Pristine Auto in Rockville early Tuesday, then climbs in head first. You can see him wandering around the dealership for about 15 minutes, searching various drawers and desks. He opens the fridge, looking for a snack, and he goes outside and can be seen searching the dealership's vehicles. Police sources tell News 4 it's not the first time he's done this. These are the 5 Montgomery County dealerships the boy is accused of targeting this month, including BMW and Audi in Rockville. In some break-ins, he managed to steal cars. But in each case, police couldn't hold him due to his age. Under a Maryland juvenile justice reform law passed 2 years ago, kids under age 13 can't be charged with property crimes.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
You know, Cornell, this is a perfect example of the non-reform reforms that I have been talking about for the last few years. In the wake of the George Floyd tragedy, you saw a nationwide push to enact law enforcement, criminal justice reforms that really were just victim abandonment measures. Now, I am not Johnny-come-lately to police reform, right? It was something that I've been an advocate for decades. Back in 2002, that was the focus of my studies and my thesis at Harvard. It is something that I have had very strong feelings about. But the solutions that were articulated in the wake of the social justice protests the summer of 2020 and Black Lives Matter movement were not at all reforms. They were just, hey, we're going to call it reform, but we're going to stop doing our damn job. And what Maryland did was they said, if you're under 13, we're not going to charge you for any kind of property crime. And it's insane. So you have a 12-year-old kid who feels absolutely free, because he is absolutely free to commit all the theft, all the burglary, whatever the hell he wants to do with zero consequence. So then the question is, well, how about the parents? Because by not controlling your 12-year-old, not being aware as to what he's doing late at night, you are exposing that 12-year-old to harm. Because let me tell you something, he's going to go into the wrong dealership at the wrong time, and he's going to catch an owner or a security guard or someone else that's going to see that kid and perceive him correctly as a burglar, and they're going to fill him full of bullets. The parents should be arrested if the kid can't be arrested, and Maryland needs to fix the statute.
Charles, I'm concerned and worried that what you said could come to pass, that somebody's going to catch this kid breaking into their vehicle and shoot and kill this child.
Right.
But what concerns me here, Charles, is that I guarantee you there's more to this story than what's being reported.
Well, how so?
No 12-year-old kid could be breaking into Audis and BMW dealerships if not some older criminals are involved, advising him, directing him, and also giving him the resources that he needs to break into these vehicles. And they're not saying when he steals these cars, where does he take them? Where do they go? And I assure you, it's not other 12-year-olds that's running these chop shops that's taking these vehicles and chopping them up and selling the parts and selling them overseas, except to Mexico in particular. Charles, I guarantee you, because they know the 12-year-old, if he's caught, he can't be charged. They're probably using this kid as a vehicle to commit these crimes and to facilitate an ongoing criminal enterprise.
Very significant possibility.
And
He
let
could
them get
also
away
be
with
a
it.
child crime prodigy.
But
Charles, at the end of the day, he's committing
Charles,
the crimes.
I guarantee you there are older people involved
Okay.
that he's taking those vehicles to.
Arrest them?
I assure you.
But do you think this kid
And-
should go to jail
but
or
I
not?
agree. I would say this.
Kid jail.
I would say this. I believe that based on the number of crimes he's committed, that the charge could be enhanced to where he could be locked up somewhere.
Not in Maryland.
Because
there's an absolute
not if you
bar.
enhance it. I think if you enhance
it's
it, he
property
can
crimes.
be locked up.
Burglary is a felony.
But not if it's an ongoing conspiracy charge. You with me? Charles, I'm telling you, the parents in this case, we want to ask where the parents, I have the same question, where the parents, what are they doing?
Lock
but
'em
I'm
up.
afraid that these are some parents that have probably done everything they possibly could to deal with this kid
That's
and
a
are getting no help
generous
from the
assumption.
system. Well, guess what? If you was a parent,
what do you mean a system?
if you was a
Parent your
parent,
damn kids.
But Charles, the parent probably saying lock him up, and the system is saying we can't lock him up because
But a
maybe the parent can't control it at home.
lock 'em up. A parent can control a kid.
No parent can lock up a 12-year-old kid who don't want to stay at home.
That's not true.
And guess what?
That's
if they
not
pull out
true.
the belt and whoop that kid, the parent go to jail.
Well, I would hope not. But at the end of the day, this is a glaring example of how what we've done to America, right? We talked earlier in the week about shoplifting at stores. They said, oh, we're going to do reform. We're just not going to arrest people for stealing again. So theft is out of control in this country, right? We're going to pretend crime is down by not taking police reports and saying, oh, crime's down, we don't have reports. While crime, the lived experience of those in inner cities like myself,
But this not the
crime is
worst
out
of
of
it.
control. But now this is actually
This not the worst of it.
legislated abandonment. They have abandoned
But
this
let's
kid.
talk about the Louisiana case
No,
now,
I think we're
Charles.
getting that to the
this
next
is
subject.
ridiculous,
I know,
man. This
but
is crazy.
You have a consequence. I think this whole show today, I think, is going to be
Last
focused.
week we just talked about an 11-year-old kid committing this
Right,
a similar type
but
crime
here's
like
the
this
thing.
not being charged.
I think every segment of the show is about a
in
juvenile
fact,
committing a crime.
they killed the kid.
But we have to have a consequence for crime. And all these people saying all cops are B words, all these people saying, all these educators
we
saying
want
abolish
consequences.
prisons, community
we want
solutions.
consequences
Yeah, we need to
for
be,
juvenile crime.
people need to be locked up.
But guess what? We don't want to place no consequences on these violent video game producers that produce games that's all about glorifying
I love
criminal
how you love to
behavior
change the
and
subject.
criminal activity, Charles. Grand Theft Auto being one of the leading ones has taken a whole generation of children and programmed them with glorifying crime, making them believe that crime is a pretty and a beautiful thing to do and it's fun to do and to get away with it. And now some of these kids are committing these crimes that they're watching and playing video games on,
So
Charles.
you think it is Rockstar?
Why are we not charging
Hold on.
them?
Well, because they made an entertainment platform video game. If
But your entertainment
hold on.
is causing criminal activity among our children.
Well, I mean, that's an argument that can be made. But what if where's the parent's responsibility? Just like these parents not constraining their 12-year-old, it is your responsibility as a parent to constrain what your child consumes.
I agree with you.
And an adult
But
shouldn't
some of
have
these
to
kids
not
are
have a
gaining
game.
access to these violent video games using cell phones of their friends
Okay.
at school.
Okay, well,
at
again,
school.
it's called bad parenting. You
So
don't have to take
the
a-
parent cannot control
the
what the
very
child has access to
suggestion
at school.
that we're talking about this 12-year-old and you want to lock up video, it's absolutely absurd.
Charles,
Cornell.
something needs to be done. Seriously.
Mourns the loss of 81-year-old former Minden council member and interim mayor Joe Cornelius.
I mean, everyone's devastated at this moment. Everyone's devastated. It really hit our city hard. It really did.
Many say that he was an impactful leader to many.
He was a great man in the community, man. I mean, since we were kids.
Ice cream man?
He was the ice cream man. I mean, camping trips. He did a lot for the community.
I hate that when he's gone now, and he was a great man, a great person.
Cornelius served the town of Minden in many ways, like founding the Concerned Citizens of Minden organization, serving the Webster Parish.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, we just watched a news story about an 11-year-old boy who has confessed to killing 2 family members of his using gun violence. And the gentleman who was killed, the 82-year-old gentleman, the former mayor of Minden, Louisiana, according to what we just watched and additional information that is out there, that this was an iconic figure of the community whose whole life possibly was committed to service of the children and service of the citizens of the county and parish in which he lived. But it's sad, Charles, because we kind of teased this story in one of our previous segments about young juvenile crime in America. It appears to be out of control, but also I believe, Charles, nobody wants to really do a serious, profound study on the impact of violent video games on the minds of our children. And I know you point out that parents should have a greater responsibility to manage and police that, which we do and we should. But Charles, violent video games, I believe, the glorification of it has convinced so many of our children to start living that unrighteous, ungodly reality that is causing these babies to commit cold, callous acts like this. I would like to know where he got the gun from, how he gained access to it. But Charles, it's sad, and it's like every week now we're talking about these stories of 10 and 11-year-old children who are committing some of the most violent criminal acts that we've ever seen.
Yeah, this story is markedly disturbing, and I think it goes to my point about the need to have an effective criminal justice system that is allowed to charge children whenever they have the capacity to commit crimes, right? Does that mean that they all need to go to some sort of youth facility? No, not at all. It depends on the level of crime, but we shouldn't use reform as a vehicle for ignoring crime, because clearly this child, if you look at the description from Chief MacGyver, Jared MacGyver is the chief of the police department there in Minden, who discussed that the child showed zero remorse when confessing. Apparently he was with his grandmother when he confessed, and the grandmother is they're not identifying the child, but it sounds like it's Keisha Miles' own son, because it says that the grandmother who's with the child is also Keisha's mom. So it's either going to be Keisha's son or her nephew, right? And that in the home when the shooting occurred, there was a 6-year-old child who was not harmed. But I think there's going to be more story to this. I think there's going to be, it's going to.
But if what the police are reporting is
not
true,
saying where the gun came from.
You're talking about an 11-year-old kid that just killed his own mother
And grandfather.
and had no remorse.
It's
Charles, there's something deeper going on
I
there.
would agree.
And in fact, I think there's something more horrifying going on there. This
I think you're
demonic,
assuming a lot.
this demonic possession of the minds of our children in America is becoming more of a reality. It's getting worse and worse and worse. To kill your own mama and have zero remorse as an 11-year-old kid, Charles, that's a demon, Charles. That's a demon that has robbed the mind of that child.
There might be some horrible explanation, but that's assuming a lot. And I
Sad,
think
man.
whoever now the person responsible for making the gun available, the chief said we're not going to disclose that at this time. It was asked by reporters. It might be one of the 2 dead people, right? It might be a decedent, but if it's not, if there was a third party that's still alive who made this gun accessible to this child, they most certainly should be charged with a crime, right? You have to keep your guns out of the hands of people not
But these
responsible.
violent video games and the
violence
that our children are seeing on social media is like things we've never seen before,
So
Charles.
what's your solution? Do away with social media?
Our children
do away with video games? Do away with adult content
let
as
me
a
say
whole?
this.
How about just people need to start parenting their damn kids again?
Example of China.
How about more mental health?
I think America should follow the example of China. Start policing the access our children have to social media. In China, they don't allow their students to have access to social media until they're 16 years old. Okay. Charles, our children are in elementary school having access to social media and some of the most violent, most heinous, most filthy pornographic material that any child should ever see. They have fingertip access to it. We got to do a better job as a country of policing what our children are seeing in social media and start holding some of the producers and manufacturers of these violent video games that our children have access to that are marketed to children accountable, man.
So you think we need to have an authoritarian regime that defines what content can be sold, that we give away free
especially
speech,
when that content is marketed to children. The same way the tobacco industry was finally held accountable for marketing tobacco and cigarette products to teenagers and children.
Okay, so you just want to do away with video games that you find to be bad, as opposed to...
I didn't say that.
How about just
do a better job of policing what they do with those games and how they distribute and who they market the games to.
How about we do a better job of making parents parent their children and giving the
And
parents
how
a
about we do a
consequence when
better
they don't.
job of not putting so many parents in jail who do discipline their children,
Okay.
who deserve
So-
to be disciplined?
Okay, so you think when a parent commits a crime, we should be like, oh, well, they got a kid. We
I'm
can't lock
against
them up?
child abuse.
Okay.
But some of these parents need
I
to
was
be
talking about
allowed to do what grandmama and granddaddy used to do, tie that backside up.
Okay, right.
In fact, if more of these kids had some more real whoopings with them belts, we'd have a better generation we got right now today. Some of these kids walking around here cussing out their mamas, cussing out school teachers, threatening teachers, threatening mamas, and whooping teachers and whooping their mamas. And the poor daddy, if he come by and pull out a belt, we want to put him in jail.
There are competing studies on the efficacy of corporal punishment, but most certainly discipline, structure, and control lead to better outcomes for kids. But the flip side is we're also calling everything a disability or a mental illness now. Like you have the kid that beat his teacher almost to death for taking away his switch.
Yeah.
Right? People have to have boundaries. And when you raise kids to tell them that they're not able to have boundaries because they're disabled, what you're doing is you are facilitating or enabling bad behavior. We need
So really,
consequences.
the
We don't necessarily need a
government
beating.
has played a role in allowing this type of behavior
No,
to flourish.
it's mostly parents, right? Parents not
Yes,
parenting.
but the government is stopping parents who want to parent from parenting.
Thank God Louisiana is a state where you can be prosecuted.
In today's Face Off, up.
Day after taking a bullet to the chest in an apparent robbery, 49ers rookie wide receiver Ricky Pearsall has been released from the hospital. Pearsall was headed to a signing event in Union Square in downtown San Francisco on Saturday. Now his mother, Erin, posted on social media that the bullet entered his chest, exited his back, and missed any vital organs. The team put out a statement thanking the police, emergency services, and all of those working at San Francisco.
All right, Quanell, this is our face-off F-up of the Friday night, and we're sticking with the theme of juvenile crime. Earlier in the week, a 17-year-old from Tracy, California, attempted to rob former SEC standout, Florida star Ricky Pearsall, who was a wide receiver drafted in the first round by the 49ers. He was at I think he had been at a signing event and was going to another in a city that had clearly embraced him, but a city that is wrought with crime, a city that exemplifies the consequence of when you tell criminals, hey, we're just not going to police you anymore, and if we happen to stumble upon you committing a crime, there's not going to be much of a consequence, right? A city that got so bad that they actually unelected and forced out their prosecutor. A city that used to be, you know, I used to take my kids to San Francisco when they were small. It was arguably the most beautiful, or one of the most beautiful cities, safest tourist destinations in this country. And criminal justice policy in the last 10 years has ruined this city. It is far left progressive nonsense. And the thing is, people get shot and robbed all the time in San Francisco. You don't hear about it. You hear about it when it's a famous person. And it sounds like this kid tried to rob Ricky, and then Ricky tried to fight back, and then he shot him in the chest. Fortunately, there was an officer that ran to him and stayed with him, and they were able, she probably credited with a sergeant with saving his life, also transmitting a good description of this kid that allowed to get him caught. Now, hopefully, because in Los Angeles and San Francisco, you have juvenile justice policies that show they're refusing to certify kids as an adult. The former prosecutor DA for San Francisco, who is now the DA in Los Angeles, Gascon, absolutely refuses to certify kids. This kid's a 17-year-old, committed attempted murder. He needs to be certified as an adult, and he needs to go to prison. When people are old enough to shoot someone in the chest and try to rob them of their life, they're old enough to suffer some real consequences for doing it.
Charles, let us both first agree that thank God this young brother, Mr. Pearsall, will survive. Thank God that this athlete who's worked so hard.
He's white, so I've never heard you call a white man brother.
I know he's white.
We're in the club now? We can be you ain't call me brother.
Thank God, but thank God this brother will survive because he has worked so hard to make it to the NFL, and he almost had his dreams robbed from him
in his life
in a robbery
right.
by a jackass.
Right.
And what angers me about this is, and let me talk to the robber right now. If you're listening, or young men out there that want to commit these robberies, man, go get a damn job. Go find you a job and stop lying and saying, well, ain't no jobs available. If that's the case, go make a job for yourself. Why rob? And when you get busted for robbery, your homeboys that rob with you are not going to send you no money for your commissary. They're not going to put a dime on your books to buy anything that you may need while you locked up. You're not going to have money to pay for your lawyers. And then your family going to be creating GoFundMe pages to help criminals committing criminal acts. Look, man, it's better to just get a job and pay for the things you want. What if Mr. Pearsall had a gun and took it out and blew your damn brains out? Young men, don't be afraid to work. Go get a job. Stop robbing people, man.
Well, I'm hoping his job will be at the prison laundry for the next 10 years, right? If you're going to put a gun to someone's chest and pull the trigger, you need a real damn consequence. And when you have elected DAs who take hard policies and say, oh, we're not going to certify murderers, we're not going to certify robbers, we're not going to certify aggravated assault committers. I mean, that's just absurd. The reason you have the vehicle for certification is that there are some juveniles who commit crimes so heinous that they need an adult consequence, and that is what's happened here. We need an
He's
adult
a 17-year-old kid who's very aware of what he's doing. He knows right from wrong.
Exactly.
And my concern is until real messages are sent to those other 17-year-olds.
You're emboldening children to commit violent crimes.
And he's really not a child. He's really a man.
Right.
At 17, you're really a man. You're just 1 year from being a man.
In Texas, you
1 year from being a man.
No, in Texas, 17-year-old.
You get certified as an adult.
No, you don't.
You go to jail as an adult. You go to jail as an
17,
adult.
you've reached your criminal majority for the purposes of criminal law, and you can go to TDC. You can.
But there's a simple solution. Go get a damn job,
There's
man.
a better solution.
Just
Send
go
people
work.
that shoot people to prison.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.